So I'm actually having a little bit of a technical difficulty in the form of I forgot to bring my camera battery, or I did bring the battery, I forgot to bring the charger. I guess I'm going to learn along the way. So I also wanted to show you guys a couple of things that that came in the DomeGaia kit. This thing is around like 1,200–1,300 bucks. Not only do you get the architectural drawings for the dome home that they have all over their website, but they also give you all the equipment you need. So when I ordered the stuff, it came in little pieces here and there, but eventually we got the hand mixer here. They sent it. It's a 1,600 watt 23110. Anyway, this is the mixer. They sent you a little set of tubes with some of the different tools you need to just blow stuff out. And this is the actual machine itself. So this is the actual, maybe this is the little dragon. I think this is the stuff, and you'll see it in there. And I've seen people make these themselves. This is the one that has the actual, tubing in it. And it looks like this one may not be able to be opened, but we can certainly make it again. This looks like it's the actual pump itself. It's got a couple of other attachment pieces that go along with it, some extra tubing. Let's see if I can pull this thing out itself. Give me a second here. There it is. And this basically is what we're going to hook up. We're going to pour soap into our kind of a bucket, hook this into the bucket, get some power to it all, and then we're going to crank out some stuff. So as you can see, here's the 7th generation stuff we're using. This is the foaming agent, basically. This is what's going to turn into foam. It's going to foam up in the concrete, and it's going to give you that nice Aircrete feel. As you can tell, it froze all last night, and it turned completely white, like it turned into a creamy white. It was clear when I bought it at the store yesterday. So again, we'll see if this causes us any kind of problems. So I think this is a pretty important part. I'm a little confused about it, but I think I got it. So this is your standard, this is kind of your standard mixer here that I have. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, when you're pre-assembling this thing basically goes on here like so. And I guess I have to screw it on, and then they've given you a couple of screws to screw this in. So this is where the Aircrete is going to come into this mixing house and is going to go to the base of what you're working on. So, this is where the Aircrete comes in. This is where the foam comes in. So you've got your concrete slurry at the bottom of your barrel. This is where that foam is going to come in. This is where that assembly, and it comes into this assembly, and then there's a shaft down here. And I'll put those together and I'll show you in 1 second. So here's one problem I just realized when I had forgotten that shaft. So that's the shaft for this mixer going through this tube, and eventually it takes a head that screws on, and I'll show you that. I probably will want to adjust this tube so that it is actually centered on this. I didn't think about that when I was putting it on. When I just looked in there, you can see it's kind of going off to the side. So that's one thing you may want to watch out for as you're doing this, is to just center this outer sleeve over that, so you don't go damaging anything as you're mixing it, getting any plastics in there or anything. So I'll fix that, I'll hook up everything, and then we'll take a look at it. It's starting to come together. I just wanted to show you one modification I made. Before, this angle was coming up and out of the machine, and I was bringing it over the front, but then I realized I wanted it to go through this handle here, because I still have plenty of room to grip and it won't interfere too much with my grip down there. And I just feel it gives it a little bit more of a kind of a stability here. This tubing here probably needs to be, I probably should use some kind of a method of, you know, like some kind of a boxy or something to get it together. But there's, so this guy, so this right here is going to go to that left port on that Dragon XL. Out of the other side, it's going to go to the bottom of the bucket, and it's going to be pulling in that stuff from the bottom of the bucket. And then of course the air compressor is going to go at the top, and that should give us a good foaming. So here's our Aircrete setup. This is the setup that's going to make the Aircrete. I just wanted to walk around it. It's kind of jank. I'm using a box, the box that the compressor came in as my little stand for the Dragon. But let's get up a little closer and see what's going on. So this is the air compressor. You can look at the specifications on this air compressor and what you need to be able to do this. As you can see, here's the tank. In this orange line, let's get this out of the way. This orange line, as you can see, is going up to our little Dragon XL. So what's going on here is we have the air coming in over here. We have this guy going all the way to our mixer. We'll follow that. And then from here, this is the intake. And the recommendation was for me to put a hole in the bottom of the bucket here. And then there's actually an attachment in here that you can use to connect everything. What I did was I just put the filter in the bottom there. I made the long to the filter long, and I put the shutoff valve up here. I just thought that was a better place for it. I mean, even if I end up putting that hole down here, I think I was going to keep the shutoff valve up here. I don't know why they had put the shutoff valve down here. It seemed a little less ergonomic, in my opinion, at least. So this is the unit itself. So what this is doing is it's taking compressed air from this orange line. It's sucking up the soap from here. It's then shoving that soap out through. So that's just a pump, really. And then that soap comes in over here. And I should be careful because I'm bending that a little bit. I might have to fix that. I'm bending that a little bit. That wasn't a good idea to put that way. But this is the actual tube itself. This has that the steel wool stuff is in here. And what happens is as it comes into here, it's all foam already. And then this foam is coming through this tube and it's being injected to the mixer. So really, this mixer is inside of here, and so that mixer is in there mixing its stuff. This guy is coming over here, so we're getting the soap from here. It's coming into the steel wool compressor, or the compressor is pushing the soap. It's going into that steel wool, and then it's going to pour out into there. Okay, so here's the form I'm going to be using. This is very, very, very uber jank. I guess this whole project has just been jank all the way. So what I did was I just found whatever wood I could. These were pressure treated wood that was sitting outside. It's been rained on and cracked and everything. That's just a piece of plywood underneath. Nothing's attached to anything. Basically, the only thing I've done is so this string I use to just create for myself somewhat of a, you know, just to keep everything in place while I screwed things down. But as you can see, the wood is so warped that there's little gaps, and it's actually on almost on all four corners of this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a piece of tape just right there in that corner, kind of close it off from this inside, and then I'm going to oil the form. And then once I've oiled the form, I'm going to start mixing some Aircrete if I can, and then see if we can't dump it in this form and let it sit overnight and see what happens. 1 gallon container. This is how I'm going to measure my water. I don't have a measuring cup, again being real jank here. So this says 5 fluid ounces, 10 fluid ounces, 15. So this is in ounces. I've already set up my bag of Crete that I'm going to be splitting in half, putting 2 into each. I'm going to add the water. I think it asks for 6, so I guess that's about 3 gallons of water each. Mix the concrete, make sure it's going well. Meanwhile, get the foaming agent going first. Actually, that's what I should do. And then you can see I've got my form in the back there that I'm going to take, and hopefully, I don't know if I'm going to need both of these. I'm going to probably dump to see if I can get right up to the top. Also, this form isn't really going to hold well together because it's got issues that I might need to deal with in a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to make the foaming agent in this bucket, start that thing, see if we can get some foam going, cut the Crete, throw some water in there, and then start hitting it. So just a quickie, as you can see, this dish soap is now completely clear. It warmed up and it went back into its original shape, so I don't think we'll have a problem. A little bit of a redesign. I don't know if I hadn't simply followed the instructions and that's why it wasn't working. To make a long story short, this is the compressor, and from the compressor we're still going to this regulator here, and I have this regulator shut off all the way. I'm going to open it a little bit. I kind of over tightened this. I think this was supposed to be up here so we could see it, but then you can't see the thing. And so anyway, that's the regulator up there. And then this hose, you'll notice that I'm now actually following their instruction. And sorry, the sun's on the other side. Hopefully you can see that well. Should have thought of that. So there you go. So I actually plugged that into the bottom so you can see it's in there. Hopefully you'll be able to see that a little bit better there. So it comes out at the bottom and then it's on the outside, and I've kind of lifted it up here. I'm wondering if the reason that this wasn't working was because they need the water, the weight of the water, to press into that pump as it's generating and doing all of its stuff. Because I did get a little bit of foam coming out, but nothing that I would open my Crete for and start mixing. We're generating foam. You can see it expanding on the ground. I have about almost 70 psi, and this is kind of climbing. I can try to tighten it a little bit more, but I don't see any more than 60 psi on this thing. This might have something to do with a pump or a leak, but at this point I'm just going to turn this off, see what happens. So I was generating a lot of foam there. I decided to turn it off for a second. I don't know, this is it's pretty shavy cream. It's pretty shavy cream. It's pretty shavy cream foam. By the way, guys, it's okay that this is on the ground. I know probably a bunch of you are going, oh my God, the environment. This is biodegradable, completely natural. This will melt into this environment and be food for this environment. There's nothing unnatural about this. That's the point of doing some of this stuff. Hopefully you're seeing this on the big camera as well. So we got foam. The pumps are all working. I'm going to cut the Aircrete. Before I put the foam in there, I'm going to make sure I make the Crete slurry. And then once we have the Crete slurry, we'll throw in the rest of the stuff. Looking good. So yeah, the important thing was the fact that this needs to go at the bottom of the bucket. This device, however it works, needs to have the weight of this water pressing into the device so that it can generate the pressure it needs. This time I got good pressure and it looks like I've got good foam. So we'll go ahead and try to make some Aircrete. All right, guys, so I am sitting in my little comfortable chair behind the building where the tent on my car is. I'm gonna go and do a video for you guys of what I was able to make, but during the whole process I ended up running into a lot of problems. The equipment works, the stuff that they give us works, but it has definitely has its quirks. One of the big problems that I was facing, one of the reasons that I think, and I'll show you with the product, the finished product, was so there's a tube, and again I'll show this all to you in the video. There's a tube that connects that you know the foam is supposed to go into the little mixer, and then the foam is supposed to go down the tube where the mixer is, and it's supposed to get injected down there into the Aircrete. I didn't realize this, but this tube had come off. It had completely come off, and basically I was blowing a lot of the foam just out at the top. So what ended up happening was I had a very heavy concrete slurry at the bottom with some foam mixture, and then I had a lot of white foam at the top, and then I had already put in enough foam. I tried to mix it in with the shovel and kind of do some stuff to see if I could get it all mixed in, but I think once that piece came off and it was just shooting foam all over the place, it was kind of game over. I did try to reattach it in the second batch that I did make, but unfortunately it didn't work very well. It will work. There's another thing. Because I was making two batches, the tube that was going into where the mixture was, other than just coming off, because I had made two batches instead of one, it wasn't actually in the concrete itself, so the foam was kind of shooting out from the top, and it was just getting, the foam was kind of sitting on top of the concrete and building on top of the concrete as I was mixing the bottom. Another thing that I ran into was those Rubbermaids that I was using. The bottoms had these shapes in them. I think it was for support. And so basically I had a lot of concrete, the very heavy stuff, sort of settled in at the bottom there, where it just hadn't even at all mixed in with any foam. So when I poured it in the foam, if I caught the video, you'll see me kind of using the shovel to kind of mix it all in and see if I could get a little bit more of a consistency. But as soon as I poured it into the foam, I right away recognized the fact that it was definitely bubbly. It was bubbling and the bubbles were popping, and it was starting to lose some of its shape. So it was settling a little bit in the form. So I think this first round is pretty much going to be a big fail as far as Aircrete goes. But what I do want to see, and this will be interesting, I kind of folded some of it into it, so there's heavier parts and there's lighter parts, and I think that's going to give me a good measure of how light can the Aircrete be before it loses that structural integrity. So between that weight to integrity ratio, where is that? I'll see that in the foam. I think I shot myself in the foot by trying to do two batches instead of just one batch. Next time I'm definitely going to need to find either a straight side or even a ribbed side, and maybe I can bring it from the factory. We have plenty of drums down there, 55-gallon drums. So maybe I'll go grab something from there and bring it, but definitely you need to make sure that the bottom is flat, so that any concrete that's settled down there, you can use a long shovel or something to get in there, pull it back, kind of yank it back, get it back, and then really make sure that your mixer gets down there. Another thing, definitely do the full batch, because you're going to need the 6 gallons of water, you're going to need the concrete, and then so that as the foam is getting injected, you want it to get injected right at the entry point of the where it's getting mixed. If the head of the mixer is out, if any part of it is out and that foam is just going on top of the concrete, you'll get foam building on top of the concrete, and you'll really never get a good mix. Definitely baking and not just cooking. I think some of these I think my initial assumption was that some of these ratios don't need to be exact. I still don't believe they need to be exact, but I think you need to be close enough. and I'm not sure that I have the visual acuity right now to be able to make that determination. It is a harder process than I thought. It is harder, sorry, the part that's harder is getting the foam and the concrete to actually homogenize into a single single material. It's very, you get a lot of concrete and foam mixed in at different densities. So I got to figure out what I want to do. Anyway, a couple of ideas. I don't know which part of this is going to make it to the video. I am definitely exhausted. I'm going to clean up and then wash off myself as well, and hopefully get something to eat and pass out. Here are the two batches. The batch on this side is the first batch I made, and it actually seems to have come out a little bit better because I think the thing hadn't fallen out yet, the part of the tube that kept the aircrete going. And you can see that this is the second batch I made. This had a little bit more concrete in it because there was some concrete at the bottom of this batch that I added to this one. But this one, the foaming tube came off and I was shooting foam all over the place. So it really has a lot less of a consistency to it. I didn't really bother with like seriously forming these up. You can see there's already been some settling going on. This is, I don't know how well this is going to shape up. This seems to be a little bit better over here, but this is really weak. And oh, that's really good actually. I think this might, this kind of has, it's not losing its shape anymore, it's bouncy. So I think this is the kind of consistency I'm looking for. This is going to all die out. Some here, it's not bad. It's not bad. But really, yeah, see how, see, this is all heavy stuff here, and you can see here I'm touching it and it's kind of going apart. I don't know how much it should be doing this kind of stuff, but here I think you can see I'm touching it, but it's just bouncing back. It's just bouncing back. It's not really falling apart. So I think this little area here is going to be the right consistency. I think the rest of this is going to be different consistencies, and we'll see different brittlenesses with different air. But this should all settle in by tomorrow morning. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit more than what was there before using the foam, but again, I think this was a pretty big failure as far as what we were doing. I don't think any of this would really be structural. We'll have to see.